Hi, everybody. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. It's just rained. I have my favorite Land of Animals mug, which says, "The world is a happier place when I'm with you." It's very nice. There's a little character on it. It's also the first day of the Tour de France, so for bikers and ex-bikers, this is a very special day. I wanted to give you a little bit of information on Exercise 4. Exercise 4 is going to test your abilities to develop character. In order to do this exercise, you're going to want to already have read the Gotham chapter on characterization. And you're going to want to think about the four primary methods that characters are developed: appearance, thought, dialogue, and action. Three parts to this. The first part is a brainstorming. And what I want you to do, the conceit for this is that you're writing a scene that takes place at a place of work. Now, the more creative and interesting you can get about that place of work, the more stuff you're going to have to work with, the more stuff you're going to have to describe, the more opportunities you're going to have to characterize. So, think it doesn't have to be like a bomb shelter or something explosive again. It just has to be a stuff where people interact and stuff happens. This could be a fast-paced food service thing like a McDonald's. It could be a pharmacy where you get different kinds of people coming in. It could be all kinds of things. But the more potential interactions and stuff to do that you have, the better. Remember that when we have jobs, we tend to like certain parts of it and not others. So we get judgments in there. So for those of you who are considering jobs at home, you're going to run into the same problem we talked about last week, which is if you're at home or you're stuck in one place, like an office that you're on your own, not much can happen in the same ways. You don't get the same kinds of interactions and physical descriptors. You're sitting at your desk. You might be able to get around that by having lots of encounters, like phone encounters or obstacles, where people you're working from home and your parents keep coming in or the dog keeps coming in. But in general, thinking of interesting vocations will really help you. I wrote a story when I was 16. I worked at a kind of an old town pharmacy, which is interesting in itself because a lot of different things happen. But what was really interesting is that my boss was like the worst alcoholic of all time. So when you put all this together, all kinds of stuff could happen, and in fact, did happen. A sort of normal job, but you can creatively think about interesting and wild things that happen there. So once you brainstorm, then I want you to write. And what you're writing here, and this is part two, is four one-half to one-page paragraphs. In each of these paragraphs, you are going to focus on one of the techniques for developing characters. And in this scene. So the first half page paragraph or one page, you're going to write, your only descriptors are going to be the appearance, either of your character or the stuff around them that they perceive. But focus on appearance. They were wearing this, their eyeball did this when something happened. Be as specific as possible. The second paragraph is going to cover the same exact territory, except with specific thoughts. Now here, you're going to have to be as vivid and precise in your thinking, but also you get to choose what I'm calling psychic distance, which is, are they like unfiltered thoughts that are barely even sentences, or are you sort of translating for the reader these full, complete sentences? Third, and to be clear here, each of these four paragraphs is covering the same time period, the same scene. You're writing the same scene four different ways, essentially. It's not that you're doing this sequentially, one, two, three, four. Third paragraph is dialogue, and the fourth paragraph is action, focusing and this is where the Polaniuk essay or article is going to come into play. Action verbs, strong verbs, what do they do? So that's part two. You're going to have four paragraphs that cover the same time period, more or less, that are using four different modes of description. Then in part three, you edit and revise. You look at what you have. And here, it's not that you just combine everything to get one big paragraph. You're going to start picking and choosing. You're going to figure out what descriptors do the most work. They're the most vivid. They tell us the most about the character. They have the best hooks to things that can happen later. So you're going to start picking and choosing what is evoking the strongest kinds of images, whether that's in dialogue and how they speak, that's very specific, or their appearance, or the way they think, any of those. You might also think here about what the balance between these four is. You may want to be dialogue heavy. You may want to really focus on appearance. This is up to you, but you start thinking about balance. So that's part three. What I'm expecting from you is the four one-half to one-page paragraphs that have each type of character description, and then the combined one, which should be the best exemplar of your work. Now, my challenge is to move into memory just a little bit more through thought. Now, you don't have to do this, but it's going to really be helpful, and you can use Karen Russell's Reeling for the Empire. What happens there is that a physical descriptor or a character descriptor is then a trigger to something else, a different scene, a flashback, a memory, a judgment. So when you're thinking about thought in particular, I want you to think about how concrete descriptions of any kind, or even a word that's used in dialogue, a way that somebody walks down the street, can be a trigger to some other kind of precise moment. And feel free to incorporate those into your work. So you might start by, a character pulling on their bow tie, and then having a flashback to when their mother taught them how to tie bow ties. All right, that is exercise 4. The goal is to get in character description and figure out different ways to do it. There are a couple other ways to do it that we'll talk about, but by focusing on these 4, we're going to get a really strong baseline in description. All right, that's exercise 4.